Okay, guys. Try to help you with whatever I can.
Greg, I wanted to ask you about the offensive line. You bring a lot of guys back. How much of a step forward do you think that group can take this year?
Yeah, if we can stay healthy, we can take a step forward for sure. We're going to have to stay healthy. But Flats and his staff are doing a great job developing those guys, and yeah, we're gonna find out how much better they can get.
Based on what you've seen in training camp, what should Rutgers fans expect out of Athan Hicks this season, and especially come game one?
Well, I'm encouraged. I think Athan has grown a lot since he arrived here in January. He's worked very hard with Coach Shiraka and the staff, but it's going to be a growing process. I mean, he's playing with new teammates. He's playing in a new program. He's playing for a new head coach. So there's a lot of adjustment for him. But I'm encouraged. I think he's a good quarterback. He's a good leader, exceptional person. Like he's got the makings. He's got the stuff.
Coach, looking at the weapons that he has, Demir Miller and company, what's the chemistry looking like with Athan as we close in on the season?
Yeah, it's growing. Yeah, they're getting more comfortable with each other. Spring was good. They spent the summer together throwing and catching, and this training camp it's been a tough training camp. So they've worked really hard.
Just generally, what did you think you learned about your team this training camp?
They're willing to work very hard for what they really want. They're a very tough group of individuals. We have good leadership. I'll give you the captains here in a minute. So we've elected captains, and I'm really proud of them. But it was a very physical camp, so I'll also go over some injury stuff with you that is going to have an effect early in the year for sure, and some of it for the whole year.
What does preparation entail now, about a week before your first game?
Well, today was like a Wednesday of game week, and then we'll have a Thursday of game week and a Friday of game week. Then we'll take a little break, and then we'll come back and have another game week. So the first game and the bowl game, we usually do 2 full weeks because there's been a long layoff before you've played. That's just how I've done it for a long time.
Talked a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago, just the in-helmet communication. I guess since then, how do you feel like that preparation's gone? How do you feel like they're kind of making that adjustment so far?
Good. Could it be better? Yeah. I mean, we're just not accustomed to it. Even as people say, well, you were in the NFL, but even as a head coach, I wasn't calling plays, so I wasn't talking to anybody. I think Kirk and Joe have done a good job of getting comfortable with it. It's just different. You're a player, and there's a voice in your helmet, and then it's hard to hear sometimes when it's noisy. So there'll be some challenges. I'm sure that it won't be completely smooth. Neither will the iPads. But everything, you got to work through it. You got to figure out best solutions. And I think we've worked very hard to do our best. But until you go through it, you don't always know what's on the other side.
Greg, with the running backs you have, do you feel like you can go into this year and not put as much of a workload on Kyle? And how do you kind of manage that?
Well, you do whatever you need to do to win games. But you do have a long-term or a season-long plan. If you have guys that are capable of pulling their weight, then it gives you more flexibility. But at the end of the day, it's about winning each individual football game. You guys know we treat each game as its own season because you put so much work into each individual game. The amount of work that the staff and the coaches put into preparing, and then the players preparing and learning and practicing, not to mention all this physical training and the mental development. So it's a lot that goes into each game. And this one, there's, even more because we double up.
You mentioned injuries. Can you how do you feel about the health of your team through the end of training camp, and are there any injuries that you can share?
Yeah, let me first go over the captains, and then I'll go over the injuries. The captains, I'm really, thrilled with the guys that were elected captain by their teammates. There could have been more. I just have to find what I generally do is find a line of demarcation where there's a big jump in the numbers votes. But Mo Toure, Kyle Monungai, Tyrene Powell, Athan Hicks, Robert Longerbeam, and Joe Lasardi are the 6 captains. But like I said, this is a experienced group. There was a lot of guys who had received considerable votes, but we cut it off there, and they'll do a great job leading the team. Now, injury-wise, I mentioned Mo first. Mo's out for the year. He tore his ACL, so we're gonna get that fixed up and get him back. But yeah, it's sad. He put so much work into getting ready for the year, and but that's the game of football. Unfortunately, there's things like that happen, and as a family, we've surrounded him, and we're supporting him, and we'll help him through the rehab, and we'll get him back and get him reaching his goals and aspirations. So it's the next man up at linebacker. We keep moving forward, and we're fortunate that we have some good depth at the position, and those guys will be ready to play Thursday.
What does it mean for the linebacker room not to have Mo and Tyreem also potentially? I'm not sure where his status is at. Just what does that mean for linebacker?
Yeah, we're going to see with Tyreem what he's able to do. Like I've said, I'm not going to rush that. So if he's not ready, but I'm very pleased with the way DJ and Moses have attacked it. Very pleased with Abram, done a really good job. Timmy Heinspeeder has really matured and become a good linebacker. So we have some depth at the position, thank God. But it's going to get challenged now for sure. So that's one area. There's some other positions, where we may have some guys that aren't able to play opening game, and maybe even more than that. It was a very tough training camp. We got a little bit unlucky on some guys that they're not season-ending things, but they're definitely things that could keep them out of the game. So it's all up to how they heal, how they progress. And it might be where, some of the guys can come back and play, but they can maybe play 15, 20 plays. They're not going to be able to play their normal workload. So we'll see as the week develops. But, again, that's part of the game of football, and we just got to be able to deal with it. No, I'd rather not share them right now. I think that, the season-ending injury, I'm okay sharing. Those others, why would I want to give a competitive advantage to our opponent right now? Because they may play, they may not. So we'll keep that in-house. But I know you got to ask.
Greg, Athan being named captain, can you speak on that? Because it's not usual for a guy to come in that quickly and earn that status.
Well, I think, like I've said all along, he came in and just kept his nose down and worked. So I think that gained respect amongst his teammates. And as he did well in the spring, and then summertime, I've told you guys many times, is where your team really formulates, because there's a lot of time that they have together. It's not as busy a time of year as it is during the academic semester. So they spend a lot of time together. They do some work on their own in addition to what we do with them. And I just think Athan became very much a guy that was in the mix with the leadership of this team and is seen that way. And then naturally the position of quarterback is a position of leadership, or it needs to be a position of leadership, and I'm glad that our quarterback is a leader.
So obviously you got 2 games before the bye week, combination of injuries. So how does that change? How are you approaching those first 2 games before the bye week?
Well, I'm approaching one game, and it's Howard. And we have to, all hands on deck. We got to go find a way to win the first football game, and we're a little beat up, and that's just the way it is. So, you're not going to cry about it. You're going to figure out solutions. That's what we do. And, we'll be ready to play, and that who plays is going to have to be good enough, because that's how we have to win the game, with who plays. So it'll be a big challenge, but one that I think our program's ready to attack, and we're going to see how it turns out. Thanks, guys.